Hello. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our first Tuesday of 2025. And welcome to Tuesday Talks with Tammy. I am your host, Tammy Robinson. Okay, and I have a wonderful, wonderful word for you today. I'm going to give people time to come on. And while you guys are getting time to come on, let me go ahead and put a title. Let's put a title on this. Today we're going to be talking about healing the mother wound. Healing the mother wound. So come on in, come on in. This is not a broadcast of mother bashing or tearing down anyone. This is actually a broadcast of healing. Okay, and so I want to talk to those of us who have been going through an emotional roller coaster, seeking out emotional healing, not knowing where it stems from. I want to be able to help you today, okay? Because it has helped me tremendously on my healing journey. And so anytime something helps me, I want to help others with that, okay? All right, like I said, I'm going to give people just a little bit more time to come on in. We're going to be talking about healing the mother wound. Let's see here. Give me just a minute. Good afternoon. Hey, Ann, how are you? Okay, you ready? All right, I'm ready too. Healing. We're going to be talking about healing the mother wound. Healing the mother wound. And I believe that this is going to be a life-changing, a positive, life-altering word for those of us who are trying to identify where to begin in the healing process, trying to identify some causes and effects of things that have been going on in our life. While we're waiting on others to come in, let me just share my cup. This is my cup, my Christmas gift from Ann. Let's spill the tea. Okay? And I've got some piping hot tea for you, and it's tea of deliverance, tea of healing. Okay? We're going to be talking about some different risk factors if we don't heal this mother wound. Some repercussions that we've been dealing with simply because we have refused to deal with the mother wound. Now, I myself, I'm a mother. So I had to do this. I had to do the work. I had to come to grips with some things and some areas where I missed it, even with raising my own children. And I want to go ahead and deal with this head on today because 2025, God has made me some promises that I do not want to miss. I do not want to be that proverbial hamster on the wheel that keeps going round and round and round, never getting to the place where I need to be, never going further, just at the same place, year after year, making the same confessions, year after year, believing for the same thing, year after year, but never obtaining those things. Welcome, as you all are coming in, welcome. I want to talk about some things that, and I want to actually piggyback off where I left off a little bit on last week. Last week, I gave you guys a little bit of background on my biological father. I talked about some of the positive things that he was doing, not who he was, but some of the positive things that my dad had accomplished. So I want to piggyback off that because I also want to go further talking about the mother wound. Because you say, well, all the things you said about your father was positive. Hey, Donna, good to see you again today. And they were very good things. And I told you guys about how my father was a leader and how he was a superintendent at the job and how he came from being that go-between person with the employer and the employees. And he was the go-to man. And they wouldn't start a meeting without him. And he was the one that made decisions. Okay. So those were some of the positive things that came with him, my dad. Now, I don't want to discuss the negative things that came with him, but let me give you a little bit more background. Hey, Lily, let me give you a little bit more background on where I came from and some of the things. How many of you know? Let me just say this. How many of you know? Sometimes we equate our accomplishments, our successes in life to who we are. And we say, that's who I am because I've accomplished this, because I've been promoted with this. Hey, Leslie, and I've they've put me here and they've entrusted me with this. Sometimes we equate our self-worth with the things that we have accomplished, with the things that we have. And that helps us cover with the things that we refuse to deal with. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about my father's background. Even though we know that he was a high accomplishing, high functioning person in corporate America, my dad was also a high functioning alcoholic. Okay, that's one of the things that I did not share with you on last week. He was a high functioning alcoholic. My dad was a person who could go to work and work 8 hours a day plus. Hey, Brittany, how are you, cuz? And but when he got off work, he was gonna stop by the store, right, and get his drink. He was a high functioning alcoholic, and for years, I mean, we just thought that was, and it was just his choice as a child. I did not know why. Hey, Janice, I did not know why he would do the things that he did. One of the things about it, with him being a high functioning alcoholic, I've never seen my dad inebriated. I've never seen him abusive. Okay, so those are some of the things that I did not witness, but I know that there was something that he was covering, something that he was dealing with, because day in and day out, once he clocked out, he had to have his medicine. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of background about my biological father, and then we'll go to what we're talking about, healing the mother wound. My biological father told me a story back when I was a teenager, and he told me about how he was conceived. My father was a product of SA. I'm not sure if I can mention the type of assault, but he was a product of assault. Okay? Born into this world with his mother having to face the difficult task of separating the baby from the experience, correct? Because you know, if you've been a victim of this type of assault, not only do you have the memories, hey Barbara, how you doing? Not only do we have the continual memories of how that child got here, you also have the continual memories of the things that happened to you as she was impregnated. So my grandmother, my father's mother, had to deal with this, as well as looking at that child daily. Looking at that child daily was a constant reminder of what happened to her. Remember what I said last week, whatever you are born out of, hey Letitia, whatever you are born out of, that's something that the child will have to deal with throughout life if it is not healed, if it is not curtailed, if it is not dealt with. So here my father is as a young child, born, not just out of wedlock, but born out of an abuse, born as a product of rape. And I guess I can say that. If I can't, then, Facebook will strike me. Not knowing who his father was, being named after his grandfather, taking on his grandfather's name because he did not know who his father was. Then there's the constant reminder again, there's the constant reminder of his mother dealing with the spirit of rejection. Also social rejection, not just rejection in the family, also social rejection. Being born back in that day and time, you had people in your community, people in your family, people whispering. And what happens is when a person goes through things like that, then they deal with the rejection, the uncertainty. They deal with depression, anxiety, fear, shame, humiliation. Am I talking to anybody today? Guilt, self-blame. So what I'm trying to help you with today is there are some things that we have to deal with that would lead you back to why you do some of the things that you do today. Why you always feel like you got to be the one to help, to heal, and to fix and put people back together again, right? Hey, Nikita. And so these are some of the things that happen. Dealing with intrusive thoughts. Can you imagine his mother trying to raise this little boy, dealing with the intrusive thoughts that keep coming up in her head, trying to keep a balance, emotional balance as to loving this child, but hating the way he was conceived. Oh, come on, somebody. Loving this child, but hating the way he was conceived. Hey, Faye. And so, daily, what about those that don't know the word, saying casting down every thought, every imagination that exalts itself against the knowledge of God? What about those who don't know that word? What if my grandmother, I don't know if she did, what if my grandmother did not know that word and could not cast down those thoughts, did not have a healthy emotional balance? What if she did not have a healthy psychological balance? Think about this. And so my father, growing up as a victim, as a product, as a child out of how he was born, being an only child, dealing with the stigma throughout the community, people knowing who he is, people knowing how he was conceived, people looking at his mother in a certain way, and mother doesn't know how to deal with this. Sometimes when the mother does not know how to deal with the womb, the child bears the burden of the womb, right? So we want to deal with that today because that mother wound will bring about different emotional imbalancing. It will also, it's hurtful. We've got to break the cycle of self-blame. And what we do is when we self-blame, we self-sabotage, right? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring a balance, and we're trying to, when we self-blame, we're trying to be accountable and take responsibility. But sometimes we take it a bit far. Because what we do is we say, well, I know this is happening to me because I did this. And we will take that with us for the rest of our lives. We'll keep, well, I know my marriage didn't work because of this. Or I know this happened to me in my childhood because of this. We self-blame and we self-sabotage. We've got to identify where this began because, hey Melanie, we've got to identify where this began because we gotta deal with this. And we've got to put an end to it so that we can grow. I know we make a lot of affirmations and we make a lot of declarations, especially at the beginning of the year. And we want each year to be better, and we want to grow each year, and we want this to be the final year that we go through what we went through last year. But if we don't deal with, let's say, the mother wound, if we don't heal the mother wound, we'll be that hamster on that wheel. We'll keep going around that same cycle. Hey, Marvel. And self-blame, now taking accountability can be good. However, self-blame can also be harmful, okay, to your self-worth, to who you are, to your growth, and to your healing. Self-blame makes you feel worthless. It gives you a bad, guilty feeling. Can you imagine my grandmother feeling worthless? I've got a child. I've got to raise him. But I don't even know, how to deal with my own emotions right now. So this is where, let's put a pin here. This is where a lot of people miss it in this day and time, because we always say, oh boy, I'm afraid of this generation. I mean, how are we going to help this generation here? We down talk this generation that's coming up. They're out of hand. It's a whole different character to how we were raised. We really don't know how to deal with them because we're not really educated or well-versed on how to deal with our own self, right? Most people equate parenthood, not just motherhood, but equate parenthood is I put a roof over your head, you're being clothed, and you're being fed. All a while neglecting the emotional needs of the child. All the while neglecting the emotional and psychological needs of the child. So that child is left with an open wound and nobody to nurse it. Okay? See, and so a lot of people say, well, why don't y'all ever just deal with past and get away? And this is what we're doing. Now, this lesson may not be for everybody. Maybe you've already put away everything that happened to you and you dealt with and you're healed and you're moving on and you're flourishing, and that's good. What I like to do, because that's my whole perspective of it. What I like to do is if I have made it here, I like to see if I can reach back and help someone else, because guess what? There was really nobody to tell me that there was help. It's almost like they tell you this is the hand that you were dealt and deal with it, deal with it the best you can. Or if you grew up in a highly religious household, then you just take it to the altar. Pray about it. Deal with it. Get over it. Go on. And nobody really tells you how to deal with yourself. So therefore, you're always beating up on yourself. Therefore, you're always taking the blame for stuff that's really not even your fault. You have a distorted self-perception. Always self-destructed. You in an argument. You're in an argument. Hey, Nikki, you're in an argument with someone. And you're always the first to apologize. Is that anybody? Always the first to apologize because I don't want to rock no boats. See, you still got that stigma on you that you were not good enough as a child. You still got that stigma on you that if I make peace first, then there'll be peace with all men. You still got that stigma on you that I've got to be the bigger one. And it has its place. I've got to be the bigger one. And let me go ahead and apologize and move on. But even when you apologize, you still walk away feeling like your self-worth is gone. I apologize. I hope they felt better. But you walk away feeling depleted. You walk away feeling defeated. Anybody? Sometimes that self-harm and that self-blame, it can demotivate us. Because what happens is we feel like this is just, I'm going to continue to go through it again. It's just on me. It's just something that's on me. And so you get demotivated. You don't want to make any new goals. You don't want to see any new visions. You don't believe anything good is going to happen to you. You can write confessions and affirmations and confirm different things, but in the back of your mind, it ain't gonna happen for me. It ain't gonna happen for me. You almost feel like if I wasn't good enough for my own parents to love. Now we're not saying that they didn't love. Some of them did not know how. Remember, I just told you the story about my grandmother and how my father was born, or how he was conceived. It was hard, I'm sure. It was hard for her to love him considering the way he was conceived. So, and I believe that she did love him. I was not privy to a whole lot of time or information with my biological father's side of the family, but that he did share with me gave me a little bit of insight to why I deal with some of the things that I have dealt with. Remember, I told you about my dad was a functioning alcoholic. Now, I did not deal with, per se, alcohol as being a vice of choice to help me deal with anxiety and depression. However, the spirit of anxiety and depression followed me, right? And some of you know, and some of you may not know, and I probably say this every week, that I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome coupled with anxiety and depression. Where did this come from? You know, sometimes you want to know, where did this come from? Where did this stem from? Back when I got ready to do my weight loss surgery, I had to take a psychological exam. And some of the questions in the psychological exam wanted to find out why I was dealing with obesity, why I was always overeating, why was I physically inactive, right? So as they began to ask the psychological questions, that began to give them insight on my physical appearance. Did you know that? Did you know sometimes we think we hide it real good. We think we hide the things that we have gone through really, really well, but sometimes it shows up in our outer appearance. Okay? All right. You are not the blame. Let me just put a pin there. You are not the blame. There are some things that you have experienced in your past. There are some things that you are experiencing right now. And you said, well, yes, it was. It was to my, if I wouldn't have done this, I'm trying to help you here to stop doing this self-sabotage. I'm trying to get you to stop doing this distorted self-perception that if I wouldn't have did this, this would have happened. If I wouldn't have, and we keep on doing the self-blame thing that keeps us going around and around and around. If you did, let's do this. How about let's forgive ourselves, right? And then we know you are not the blame. You cannot continue to teach a child that as long as they are clothed, fed, and have a roof over their head, that they'll be okay with the void of emotional love or the validity of their emotions. Let's just say that. Some people, I've heard some parents tell a child, what are you crying for? You ain't got no bills to pay. I pay everything. You know, you ain't got no bills to pay. All alone, you're overlooking that child or that person's emotional trauma. Hey, Maria, you're overlooking the things that that person has experienced in their life, and you're leaving it up to the child or to that person to cope or resort to whatever works for them. And when they cannot find something to cope with, they turn to other vices, whether it's eating, whether it's drinking, whether it's drugs, whether it's sex. You know, they turn to other things because there's no one there to curtail that thing that's in them, even that mother wound, that hurt. Let's see, let me get here. When we have that mother wound and it's undealt with, we can make it very difficult and traumatic to work through the experience. When mothers don't deal with what they have done, it makes it difficult for the child to work through it, right? When a child tries to come to the mother and say, I'm feeling this way and I'm feeling, I need this from you and I need this from, and for a parent to tell her, oh, you all right, you don't need that, you just cry so much, you're just too sensitive. You know, when you do that, you make it even more difficult for that child to overcome the trauma, right? Sometimes the child has to overcome the trauma that you caused. And so we know that it's hard for us to kind of talk to that person about it because we caused it. So if we actually ever be honest with ourselves and know that this is something that we call, we can get two healings in one. We can get healing for the parent and we can get healing for the child. I had a plethora of things going on with me and did not know how to break the cycle. I was introduced to my therapist through my daughter. Right? I was introduced to my therapist. My daughter reached out first. And I was talking to my daughter a little bit this morning, and she said that her daughter, which is only 6 years old, had started some new confessions and declarations and affirmations for the year, and building up her self-worth. And we were both so proud of Dakota for doing her own affirmations and saying new things about herself. And my daughter said, I wish I was that way when I was her age. And that's a good thing to say, right? It also shined a little light on me so that I could know these are some of the reasons why. Thank you guys for the likes, the shares, and the comments. I do appreciate that. I see you. And so when we were talking, I was thinking about my daughter was a very outspoken child, just like her daughter, until it got to a point where, some things were going on in the household that would tear down her emotion or her emotional intellect. To say that she was just being smart mouth or smart aleck, when all along she was just a child who knew how to express herself. And so when those things are torn down, she was living in a house that an alcoholic lived there. And this was a different type of alcoholic. This wasn't the type of alcoholic like my father. This was not a high functioning alcoholic. This was one where alcohol overtook the person. Okay? I'm not trying to say one is better than the other, because my father as an alcoholic, he suppressed his issues. Her father as an alcoholic exploded. Okay? So there's different kinds, and neither one of them is good. Now, what happened is, as my father as an alcoholic, because he suppressed everything, I learned to suppress everything. And it wasn't until I was an adult and I got tired of the negativity and people picking and things like that, that I imploded. Okay? And then things began to happen. When we don't deal with the mother wound, you as the child believe that it is more tolerable to believe that you are the problem. Now check this out. You believe it's more tolerable to believe that you are the problem, that you are the issue, than to believe that a parent would be the one at fault. Have you ever heard somebody say this? Well, she's still your mother. You can't say that. She's still your mother. You can't say that. He's still your father. And although that's true, and I'm a mother, so I'm not putting this on anybody. Although that's true, what you do is you send a signal that because that's your mother, or because that's your father, hey Lisa, or because, that person has a high-ranking title, you're not able to point out the wrong in that person. So even though it's painful, we make the child feel like it's acceptable, because it's more tolerable to say, for me to take the blame than for me to know that it's your fault, the reason why I grew up like this, right? And when we do a child like that, what we do is we send a signal that it is our duty to fix the issues. We send signals to that child that they are too damaged and they're not good enough. So when a child has not dealt with the wounds of the mother, when that child has not dealt with the wounds of their childhood and they grow up into an adult, we send signals that they are too damaged. And you know what? When we send signals that let's just say that woman is too damaged, then she resorts to taking whatever job comes along first. She's too damaged to believe that she could have better. We send signals that it's okay for that woman to have the first man that come along, right? Because we make her believe that she's too damaged to have anything better than what she's got. You better take what you can get out there because you're so damaged. Take what you can get because nobody else is going to deal with that. If your own parent didn't want to deal with that, you better take what you can get. This is the stage that we set. And it's not right. I want to get you healed today. I want to get you set free. I want to get you delivered. What we do is we start taking on too much responsibility because we're still trying to make up for something that's not even our fault. So we take on a lot of responsibilities. We stay busy. You know, we're always taking the neighbor something. We're always at the church doing something. We're always making ourselves available to volunteer for something because we're trying to earn our keep. We're trying to earn our way into somebody's life. We're trying to earn a like. We're trying to earn a love. When only you have to simply be you. Okay? All right. We have misdirected anger. And what that is because we've been told that's your mother, that's your father. And we know we're angry, but we've been told that you're not allowed to feel that way towards your caregiver, whoever that person may be. We've already been told that we're not allowed to disagree with how they have raised you. We have displaced anger. Have you seen anybody that just spew out? They just spew out anger on everybody else. Because it's the person that they really want to convey this anger to, they've been told, no, that's off limits. So they take it out on everybody else. Am I helping anybody? You step in these different roles. Let me tell you what you do, what people do who have undealt with mother wounds. You step in these roles where you want to fix everyone. You want to fix them. You want to heal them. You see them. They're traumatized, and you recognize that trauma. You recognize it. You see them going through. They've told you their past story. They told you how they were raised, and there's something in you. Hey, Sister LaWanda, there's something in you that want to fix that person. You want to mend the situation. You want to heal them. I think I remember telling the story here not too long ago when I when that light came on that day, when I finally was ready to get a divorce from my first husband. And the light came on while I was sitting in church. We were at a ladies' night out, you guys, I've already told you the story, and I was in a 15-year abusive relationship. And a lady was up speaking. And one of the things that she said in her delivery was, don't marry your mission work. If you can get a hold of that, don't marry your mission work. She says, we were at a ladies' night out, so she was talking to women, and she says, some of you are staying in relationships. Now, this can go for friendships and workships and relationships and marriage. Some of you are staying because it's your mission work. You feel like you want to fix everyone. You feel like that if I leave this person at this time, then I'm deserting the person, or I'm jumping ship from the mission. And it may be your mission to help. You may have a ministry of helps, but It doesn't warrant you marrying that person. It doesn't warrant you staying in a relationship with a person who is abusive, who is constantly tearing you down, who does not affirm you, who does not attribute to your self-worth. They're always subtracting and never adding. Okay? You got deep-seated beliefs that you are too damaged. I stay there for a minute. I'm not sure at what age my father was told that he was a product of rape. But can you imagine him with the deep-seated anger as to one, not knowing his father, not knowing his identity, not knowing who he was, not really knowing what family he came from. Not only that, but also the stigma of whoever he is, he's got to be a bad man because this is what he did to my mother. Can you imagine my father having to deal with that as a child? Can you imagine him having to deal with the emotional roller coaster that his mother was on? Her not knowing who this man is, yet deciding to keep this child and looking at this child as a reminder of how he got there. My father took this stigma with him into his adulthood. That stigma somehow fell on me. You're always trying to find your self-worth. You're always trying to fix something that's not your fault. You're always trying to be busy and productive. Because if I'm busy and productive, I really don't have to deal with this emotional roller coaster that I'm on. If I'm busy, I really don't have to deal with trying to be me. Because why? If me being me is a reminder to you of a painful situation, I'd rather be doing something else. I'd rather stay out of the way because I wouldn't want to be that painful reminder to you of how I got here. I'm trying to help. Am I helping anyone? Put a hand up or something if I'm helping you. You always find yourself stepping into roles that you don't belong in. You know, wherever you try to get in, wherever you fit in. You're not skilled in that area. You don't really want to be there. It's hard for you. You know, it's not done with ease. You're always feeling defeated, deflated, worn out when you get through with helping those people. You know, you're tired. In your mind, you know you need a break. But there's something about quiet time that you run from. There's something about being left by yourself that you run from. So I'd rather be in a crowd. I'd rather be out here socializing because I don't want to deal with me. Why would I want to deal with me when mother didn't want to deal with me? Why would I want to deal with me when father didn't want to deal with me? Come on, somebody. So we do things to stay busy. We take on these responsibilities. We take on these jobs that we know are not for us. We take on spouses as projects. Let me work on them because it's too painful to work on me. We rather work on a broken man, women. We rather work on a man who needs to be fixed. We rather work on a man who has mother wounds than to deal with ourselves. We don't want to identify the patterns because the patterns are too painful. When we see anything that reminds us of us, it's painful and we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to feel those emotions. It's too painful. And the human side of us, of course, don't want to deal with the pain. We rather get motivated by helping other people than deal with the demotivation of fixing us. If we don't fix us, somebody tell me, put it in the comment. If we don't fix us, can somebody tell me who gonna fix us? If we don't identify our issues, can you tell me who's gonna help us identify them? If we're not willing to be healed, can you tell me who can heal us? Because there is a peace that God wants to give to us, but if we keep running from it, we'll never experience the peace of God that transcends all understanding, keeping our hearts and mind stayed on Christ Jesus. We'll miss that peace. We'll miss that peace. Then we won't be able to tell this story in a peaceful manner because we're afraid to deal with it. We're afraid of the repercussions. We are afraid. Do you know that if we don't deal with this, that cycle continues to fall on our children and our grandchildren and their children, and we want to stop it. And sometimes we don't want to. We want to stop it. Let me say this: we want to stop it, but we don't want to deal with it because it's so painful to deal with our past. And some of it is not even our past. It's the past, the sins of our fathers, the sins of our mothers. But it's a painful thing to deal with. Self-blame, self-sabotage is a way that tries to make us be responsible. Self-blame is self-sabotage. It'll make you think you're not worthy of the blessing. Self-blame is so aggressive. It will make you think that this is happening to me, and I know it's bad, I know it's painful, but I deserve it. Self-blame, God wants to deliver you from this today. Now, you take responsibility. The Bible says you can quickly agree with your adversary, right? Quickly agree. And then we have to do something to change. There was a young lady, I'll tell a story here in a minute. There was a young lady who, everybody knows that I told the story about my son, my oldest son at one point in time, facing prison time. And I say one point in time because now he's there, right? So we know the outcome. And my son facing federal prison time. And so we talked about it took 3 years for the judicial process to take place. There was 3 years of waiting, 3 years of being in and out of court, 3 years of waiting because this was a 35 defendant indictment, okay? My son was one of 35 in the indictment. So throughout the waiting process and not telling a whole lot of people what was going on because number one, it was his business. Number two, it was a pending case. So it was a lot that we could not talk about. There was a lot that could not be said. And number three, it was a very painful and shameful experience, right? To be going through. And not just to be going through, but to be going through publicly. It was not only my son going through this case, but he was also going through this case with a high profile person, right? And so while going through this case and praying and having a few prayer partners to get together with me and to believe God for the best outcome, one day this young lady, and I'm talking about agreeing with your adversaries. I don't want to lose heart because, you know, I'll tell 30 stories trying to tell one. So while we were waiting, and social media can be cruel sometimes, but while we were waiting on sentencing, there was a young lady who made a post, and it was an erroneous post about my son. And at that time, she stated that my son, I guess the world uses the word snitch. Okay, made a post that he was part of an informant. Now, my son was facing some charges. I inboxed this young lady first because I don't believe in all that going back and forth on social media. So I inboxed this lady in a confidential way, advised her that this is erroneous information. I would appreciate if you would take this down as my son's entire address has been made public, and his fiance and children are at the address. The young lady began to go back and forth with me that somebody else shared this information with her, so she felt like it was only right that she could put this information out on social media, since she had been dubbed the Queen of Hood News, right? And so she eventually took it down because it was wrong. It was erroneous information. So she eventually took it down. Fine, well, my son was sentenced. We were done with it. Let's roll up. Months later, this same young lady had information to come out on her, that she had a chance to set the record straight on her own behalf, right? See, they used to say in the world, it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun, right? And so she was using her, or needing to use her own platform to defend herself in an area to where she was trying to make it hard. That same way she was trying to make it hard for me and my son. Things began to get hard for her. Well, a podcast came out, and she was able to try to smooth things over about some things that happened in her past. I made a comment, not against her per se, or not to her per se, but I made a comment under the podcast. It's my own voice and my own opinion. And under my comment, the young lady told me, well, you just worry about that criminal that you raised, right? What if I wasn't healed? Come on, somebody help me out. What if I wasn't healed? What if I would have took that to heart? What if I decided I wanted to go back and forth with that young lady? Now, me, myself, having my own platform, me, myself, having Tuesday Talk with Tammy, me, myself, wanting to see others healed, set free, and delivered. If I was in my unhealed state, I could have been going back and forth with that woman about my son, right? I'm not even going to say it took everything in me to not respond. This is how you know you're healed. It didn't take everything in me to not respond. I didn't respond. As a matter of fact, I just blocked her, because some things you got to learn how to pick your battles, right? What if I still didn't know my self-worth? What if I was still in that distorted thinking stage of self-sabotaging? What if I was still in that stage of self-perception, right? Of negative self-perception. Okay, so this is what happened. When my son called, I shared with my son what had happened. And let me tell you something, healing and maturing is a beautiful thing. And so I was telling Aaron about what was said, and Aaron said, well, Mama, I am a criminal. He said, but I've never abused any children, and I'll never abuse anybody else's children, right? Oh, man, I love that, because guess what? The Bible says, quickly agree with your adversary. Listen, what you're saying, young lady, was not a lie. I agree with you on that. However, I have matured to the point where I don't have a problem with admitting what I have done was wrong and moving through that. This is how we heal. This is how we go to, hey, Albert, this is how we go to the next level. This is how we're able to help someone else when we're not covering, when we're not offering up a bunch of excuses, when we acknowledge what we did and we've already forgiven ourselves. You can't use it against me, right? Come on, somebody. They can't use it against when you acknowledge. When you acknowledge what you've done is wrong, and now you're on your healing journey. When you've acknowledged it, you're healing, you're moving past it. Ain't nothing nobody else can say about it, right? Ain't nothing you can do to pull me back down, because I've already admitted. Number one, acknowledge the trauma. This is what we're going to do to fix this, and then we're going to get ready to go. Acknowledge it. Do like Aaron did. Acknowledge it. And once you acknowledge it, you acknowledge the problem was there. Then you take responsibility, right? There was no way And this is how a lot of people are repeat offenders in the judicial system. Because some of them are there just because they got caught. Okay, a lot of them are. The next thing is some of them repeatedly go because they got caught, but they never changed their ways. They never acknowledge what they did. And then if you don't acknowledge it, you're not going to take ownership of it. Now, guess what we can do after we acknowledge it and take ownership of it? We have the right and the ability to rewrite the narrative. Hey, we can rewrite it. Ain't nothing you can do about it. People can talk about it. They can pull up articles on it. They can give their own twist and opinion about it. But me, when you're ready to change, you have the ability. Hey, Linda, you have the ability to rewrite the narrative. It's your call. How do you want it? The Bible says write the vision and make it plain. And when the Bible says write the vision and make it plain, he wasn't just talking about houses and cars and starting businesses. Rewrite your vision. How do you see yourself? Hey, Amanda, how do you see yourself 1 year from now? Rewrite it. Rewrite the story. I don't care what happened to you. I don't care how my father was a product of rape. I don't care how that happened and he had to deal with the stigma of humiliation and shame and those things that his mother had to deal with. I don't care about any of that. It doesn't have to fall on me. It doesn't have to fall on my children. It doesn't have to fall on my grandchildren. You have the ability to rewrite the narrative. That thing that the enemy meant for evil, God can turn it for your good. That thing that the enemy keeps trying to pin on you. He tries to put a sign on your back everywhere you go. He tries to make people identify you as the little criminal. He tries to make people identify you as that lady that had a child in her teenage years. He wants to do anything and everything in his power to make people identify you as the fatherless child. He wants to do everything in his power to make people identify you as the abuser or the abused, right? But that's not your name. That's not your name, and that's definitely not your destiny. You have the ability to rewrite the narrative. That thing that the enemy meant for evil, rewrite it, send it in another direction. Go to where you grow. Don't stay where you are, dying in the wilderness. Don't stay where you are, being in this same place next year. Hey, Mary, don't stay where you are, being that needy person, always in need, and always being, let me tell you something else, always being that person, you want to be that person, that go-to person. It gives you self-worth when you're that person that say, call Tammy, she can do it. Call Albert, he'll do it. It boosts your self-worth. Don't marry your mission work. Okay? Fix you. Fix you. You gotta fix you before you can help fix anyone else. Hey, Oral, you gotta fix you. Remember, my grandmother had a difficult task of separating the child from the experience. Today, I want you to learn how to separate who you are from what you've experienced. Learn how to separate your self-worth from the experience. You are who God says you are. You are not what you have experienced. My father did not have to go through life with that stigma on him as being the product of abuse. He pulled himself out of that. He began to work on himself, his self-worth. Apply for jobs that people thought that a person from where he came from could not have, was not worthy of, could not achieve. My father lived a long life. He has now since passed back in 2010. However, I am grateful. I am grateful to have known his past and portions of his mother's past to help me deal with my healing. Okay? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to do the research. I know it's painful sometimes, but in order to do the work, in order to heal, you got to know the truth. I know it's painful. Sometimes when we have to face where we came from in order to get our healing, it's worth it. Hey, Nangela, it's worth it. And so as I get ready to close today, I want to invite you guys to inbox me, share with me things that you want to talk about. Share with me some things that you've been keeping to yourself that it's private, but you're ready to get it out of you. Share with me some prayer needs. What this helps me with is my healing, right? Because a part of my healing is helping others. Now, there are some areas that I am still healing in, but then there's also some areas that my healing comes when helping others heal, right? What the devil meant for evil, God is turning it for my good. The devil meant it for evil. He wanted what happened to my grandmother, to my father, to my mother, to be a stigma on me, that it may be passed down to my children and my children's children. But God has already given me the blueprint. God has given me the instructions, and I'm able to turn this thing around. All right. Remember, if you did not come from a healthy family should come from you. There is no need for your children to go through what you went through. Okay. Let's heal together. Thank you so much. I'll see y'all next Tuesday. Have a good one. Bye-bye.